Greetings everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel for Kangaroo Maths and Science Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe you are all well. I just want to give an advice to the grade 12 candidates who will be sitting for their supplementary examination. Right. In terms of your preparation, ladies and gentlemen, when you are preparing for your supplementary trial examination, I just want to give you an advice to, like, in terms of what is it that you should follow in your preparations, particularly in both maths and physical science. But for now, I'll talk about mathematics, in particularly focusing on paper 1. Ladies and gentlemen, in terms of your results, you know yourself how much you got in your maths paper 1 or paper 2. For example, you find that you got, like, in maths, in your maths, maybe you got, let's say, 30% and above. Right. In terms of your performance, you know yourself how like the way you were preparing yourself in maths paper 1. So I just want to provide to give you an overview or an advice to say, what is it that you need to do now in writing your supplementary examination, which I believe it will be around March or April, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Number one, I think you need to actually do the following, or like consider the following steps. Like, you know that you'll be writing a paper that will be out of 150, and it's just a 3-hour paper. And according to my understanding, you're used to the format of the paper. And what I could advise is, number one, just let's say, for example, like looking on the November 2024, if we can just go through it. Number one, you'll see that the first question in terms of the format, we know it's algebra. And the second one is sequencing series. Usually it's question 2 and 3. And the other one is question 2 and 3, it's sequencing series. Then question 4, we have the functions and graphs. 4 and 5 and 6 also, it's functions and graphs. Question 7 is financial maths. Question 8 here, it's calculus, usually which address, like question 8, it was addressing first principles and the rules of differentiation. Question 9 is the curve sketching, which is also calculus. And then question 10 is the application of calculus, and question 11, it's probability and fundamental counting principle. So according to my understanding, ladies and gentlemen, I would advise you to do this. I would actually advise you to first start with algebra, because particularly in terms of algebra, it's one of the easiest topics, particularly in maths paper 1. And if I were you, I would just focus more on algebra. So spend some time on algebra and make sure that you are able to close your gap, like in terms of the content. Like, we know under algebra, ladies and gentlemen, the format of the paper does not change. Number one, make sure that you are good in factorization. You're able to know how to factorize. 2, you are able to use a quadratic formula. And when we're using this, make sure that you confirm your answers. Don't just, for example, in terms of factorization, whatever you factorize, make sure that you confirm whatever you're factorizing, because you find that in some instances you are just incurring, these simple mistakes of getting good marks. And number 3, make sure that you are able to use the questions that are involving surds, where you have squaring both sides. So these are the key things that you need to follow. Then number 4 is the issue of inequalities. Spend some time on the inequalities. And 5 is the issue of exponents. 6, it's simultaneous equations. Make sure that you spend more time on these things, guys. Then the other one, number 7, is the issue of being able to use nature of roots. The cases where, like when you're using discriminant of b squared is minus 4ac, where you know that when the discriminant is bigger than 0, you know roots are real. But if it's equal to, so it means roots are real and equal. But when the discriminant is equal to 0, it means roots are equal. And when the discriminant is less than 0, it means roots are non-real. So you have non-real roots. So these things are very important, particularly. You know, spend some time in understanding this, because some of the things you will see them maybe in the other chapters. For example, in calculus or in functions and graph, you might use nature of roots. So make sure that you spend more time on this, because most learners, they take this for granted, and these are like algebra. It's one of the key. Make sure that you spend some time understanding these things, ladies and gentlemen, very important. So I will encourage you to spend some time on algebra. And if need be, you can even get a grade 11 textbook. For example, you use the platinum for grade 11. You can also use this platinum and use this for grade 11. Then you saw that you're able to practice or use past exam papers to make sure that you like actually understand most of the things in terms of factorization. Because guys, like algebra has a lot of marks. But if you feel like you're still struggling with these things, you can actually contact, like you can reach out to me, because I also have the extra sessions where I actually assist supplementary candidates. Then I can be able to assist you. Then, but however, if you feel like you're still stable with this, you can just do it on your own. But make sure you need to be consistent, because remember, guys, when you are doing this on your own, it means you need to be disciplined. You set a timetable, you follow it. Then you make sure that, for example, like let's say when I was talking about the issue of factorization, imagine in the exam you are given something like this: x squared, let's say minus 5x plus 6 equals to 0. Then you ask to solve for x. So when you are solving this, remember you have to make factorization. And some of these things, guys, they just need you to confirm. For example, if you want to remember what is interested here, we need to factorize an interest on the middle term. The middle term, it means you must, whatever we're going to factorize must give us -5. And it means here we know the factors of x squared here, it's x and x. But we want to get the factors of 6. That will give us 5. Obvious factor of 6, it's 6 and 1. And it's 3 and 2. But we need to be careful. Because yes, 6 and 1 can give us 5. But now if we use 6 and 1, look at this. To have -5, it means 6 should be negative. 1 should be positive. So now the problem is -6 plus 1, it's -5. But negative times positive, it's negative. And here we want it to be positive. So it means this is wrong. It will not be the factors. It means to have this, unless if there was a minus here, then we'll use 6 and 5. So it means here we must use 3 and 2. Both should be negative, because negative times negative gives us positive. So it means here we must have -3 and -2. And sometimes it's good to confirm, to say, okay, x multiplied by x, it's x squared. X multiplied by -2, it's -2x. -3 times x is -3x. Then plus 6. You see, you're just confirming. You see, this is giving you -5, which means this is the correct one. So make sure that when we are factorizing, just confirm. on your own, you can easily see that, yeah, I've done it correctly, or I did not do it correctly. So it's straightforward. So it's just an advice. So make sure that you spend more time on algebra. You practice algebra on your own. Very important. Then after having done with algebra, you see questions like 1.3. Actually, like these are just questions where they just they just want to check your level of understanding. But I would advise you not to spend more time. Like this let be the last questions where you focus. Actually, focus on this type of questions. Then this one is just for enrichment. But you also have to make sure that you spend more time on that. And then now, obvious, when you have scored a lot of marks on questions like algebra, like particularly in paper one, that's why I encourage you to actually spend more time on algebra. Then after spending more time on algebra, then you can move on to sequence and series. You can move on to sequence and series. Here's my advice. When you are spending, if you are preparing for sequence and series, this is what you need to consider actually. Okay, I just want to create a space somewhere so that I can be able to. Okay, we do not have that. Yeah, so first you start with algebra. Then secondly, I will encourage you to actually go to sequencing series. Yes, go to sequencing series, number 1. When you are preparing for sequencing series, you have to do this. Isolate between a sequence and a series. First, start with sequence. Number 1, there are 3 kinds of sequence that you need to prepare for. We have something called quadratic sequence, which you learned in grade 11. Make sure that you spend more time on this. Secondly, go to arithmetic. Arithmetic sequence. Just make a summary on this arithmetic and geometric. Try to understand the difference. Remember, in arithmetic, it's also called a linear, the one that you learned in grade 11. Okay, then now make sure that you go through this one by one. Try to understand their differences. And also consider that, remember when we talk about the sequences, when you are writing term in consecutive orders. So T1, T2, T3 up until Tn. So I'm not going to spend more time on this. And again, move to this, come to a series. Series when you are now adding terms, T1, T2, T3, and so forth, which is now sum to n. And that there are only 2 kinds of series. It's only arithmetic and geometric. Make sure that you differentiate this. Then get the differences, understand, maybe come up with a summary and make sure that you understand them very well. Then now, after having prepared the sequence in series with examples, then this is my advice. You can now move on to functions and graphs. Because I want to start with those questions that have a lot of marks. So you now go through functions and graphs. Right. Under functions and graphs, which is topic 3. The videos that I actually have created, where I was talking more about functions and graph. Number 1, you must differentiate between a hyperbola You must understand the functions of a hyperbola and its properties. Number 2, then you go to a parabola. 3, you go to exponential function. The last one, let it be the inverse of an exponential. Function, which is a logarithm. Then after this, then number 5, maybe you can now introduce the transformations. The issue of reflection and translation. Reflection about the x-axis, reflection about the y-axis, about the line y equals to x, and so forth. These things are very important. So you make sure that you spend more time on this, because if you look on the paper, I'll just take you through the paper so that you can be able to see what I'm actually talking about here. And you know, some questions, actually, the examiner will keep on setting them. Like there's no way in functions and graph, they will not set any question that is to do with hyperbola or parabola or exponential, because there is no any other questions that they can set except that. For example, if you look at question 4, according to the November paper, this is an exponential function, you see. So which means maybe in the supplementary, they might ask about the inverse of this. Maybe they can give you a log. You see, so you must always know that, those kind of things. You see, now they're talking about reflected about the line y equals to x. Is the issue of transformations. But if you actually need more help on this, you can reach out to me. Then I can be able to assist you. Then now, you see, question 5, it's hyperbola. So I'm saying whatever you have learned, actually, you just make a summary, understand you. Like, for example, when you're dealing with hyperbola, you need to know the asymptotes, which is to do with the x and the y. You must get the x-intercept, where you let y to be 0. You must get the y-intercept, where you let x to be 0. Then you must get the line of symmetry, the y equals to x plus c, and the y equals to minus x plus c. Maybe with the issue of the range, you must know the range and the domain of hyperbola. So these are the things that examiner will actually ask. For example, you see here, they say the line of symmetry is given by this. So obvious, with this, you can be able to get the information about the other points. So it's very, 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 very important. Then now, after that, in the next question, you see, it's a parabola. So I'm saying it's all about knowing what you are like, it's all about what you're actually given. There's no way in the functional graph they will not give you any of the functions that I have actually indicated there, especially in functional graph. You see a parabola. You just have to know that if it's a parabola, you must know the standard form of a parabola. That like a parabola can be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, or it can be in the form of a into x minus p squared plus q. You also have to be able to know that, okay, if it's in this form, what must I do? You see, it is in this form. So obviously, this one needs the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the turning points. And also, you see now with the straight line, I even forget to talk about the straight line. So these are the things that you need to be able to understand. And guys, you need to be disciplined. For you to pass maths, you need to be disciplined. Be disciplined very well. Especially when you are doing it on your own, with no one who can actually assist you. So you need to be disciplined. You to make sure that you spend more time, you practice as many questions as possible. Then you're not gonna have a problem in that. You see, these are one of the questions where I was just talking about. For example, you see 6.4. This need the knowledge of nature of fruits. Because where the graphs are actually equal, if two graphs are actually equal, if f of x equals to g of x, it means it's the point where the roots are equal actually, or roots are actually equal. So you need to be able to know. That I said spend more time on algebra. And a learner who actually make sure that in paper one get a lot of marks, already that learner have passed. Because in paper one, I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm saying in paper one, imagine you get 90 out of 300. Already you have passed. But it will just be a 30%, even if you have not written paper two. So you see that when you're going to start with paper two, at least you're working to improve the marks. But I encourage you to actually make sure that you get more than 90 in paper one, because it's one of the easiest actually. Okay, then now from there you can now, after functions and graph, the next question actually will be financial maths. I will just encourage you not to don't spend, like for now, like in terms of my advice, start with algebra, sequencing, series, functions, graph. Then after functions, graph, then you move to calculus. That's my advice. Move to calculus. Under calculus, usually calculus comes in 3 questions. Calculus comes in 3 questions. Number 1, I will advise you to start with the first principle. First principles and the rules of differentiation. You know, those rules where when we are given an expression like this, you just have to differentiate. These are the rules. I apologize. Then you see the first principle, usually is the first question, but yet they've just interchanged them. So you see, make sure that you are able to go through the first principles and the rules. Then question 2 is the curve sketching. Like, how do you sketch a cubic function? Ax cubic plus bx squared plus cx plus d, in terms of knowing their shapes. Very important. Then now, like in the case where, like when you are sketching, you must get the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and also the turning point, where you have to differentiate your function and equate to 0. But this one is for the second questions, the rules of differentiation. No, I'm saying the curve sketching. Then after that's where you can actually, but in terms of the third question, the application to calculus, let me just say this: under calculus, you can just start with the rules of the first principle and the rules of differentiation. Then after the rules, then you move on to the curve sketching. The curve sketching, particularly. Then after curve sketching, then the application to calculus, let it be the last one, actually, yeah. Let it just be the last one. You can just leave the application to calculus for now. Then after leaving this application to calculus, go to finance. Just focus on financial maths. Remember, I said you just, under calculus, you look at the first principle, the rules, and the curve sketching, the cubic functions. And after this, you just do away with the application to calculus for now. Then you move to financial maths. Financial maths, number 1, differentiate between simple interest and compound interest formulas. And particularly the compound interest, understand the issue of where they're compounded monthly, compounded quarterly, compounded weekly, compounded daily. And yes, then from there, you go to annuity. Annuities differentiate between the present value annuity and future value annuity in terms of their formulas. Usually, you know, present value annuity, usually we use it when we are dealing with the loan. Future value is when we are dealing with savings or investments, where we have an equal payment that is being made at a regular interval. Then again, under this, you just go to the issue of how to calculate outstanding balances, how to calculate the interest paid. Yeah, those things. Then after that, then after having prepared the, like, oh, I forgot the issue of under the compound interest, be able to differentiate between how to convert from nominal interest rate and effective interest rate using the formula 1 plus I norm over m to the power of m minus 1 equals to the I effective. Remember, we have to know this formula. Then now, after having prepared the financial maths, then move on to the, yeah, I think for now I can advise you to just start with probability and counting. But in terms of probability, there's a video that I actually created for probability. Just go through the video, try to understand how to calculate the probability. Divide by each sample size. Then know the rules of probability, that probability can range between 0 and 1. And also know the rules of probability. For example, when you have addition rule, that probability of A or B equals to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A and B. And if we eventually know the issue of what are the conditions for mutually exclusive events. We know that the mutually exclusive events are those events that have no intersection. So it means the probability of A and B is 0. So obviously, when you're using this formula, this will become 0. And again, note the condition for independent events, that events that are independent, the probability of A and B is the same as the probability of A times probability of B. So you need to know this. And remember, it's probability and counting. So start with probability first, understand their rules, how to actually calculate the probability when you are given a Venn diagram or a contingency table or a tree diagram when you're constructing a tree diagram. Yeah, so something like that. But it's all about planning. You need to structure your things. Don't just go through the whole paper and try to understand the whole paper. Just tell yourself, okay, now I'm preparing algebra. Let me understand algebra. Try to practice algebra. Then when you are done with preparing this probability and fund, then that's where you can go to the application of calculus. Maybe under the application of calculus, try to understand the different kind of shapes in terms of the areas and volume. Then go to the rate of change. You see, the one that they said is just the rate of change. But you see now, since now they've asked about the rate of change, means now they can go to optimization in terms of the volumes and surface area. There's a volume there's a video that I have actually created. But remember, the application to calculus is just the topic where, like, is just to add more, like to increase your marks, particularly if you want to get distinction. But I'm not saying you must not do it, but let it be the last one. Very, very, very important. So this is just the tips that I'll actually advise you to actually follow. But if you want to get more info, actually, you can just contact me. Then I'm actually having the sessions for like assisting those who are actually doing supplementary exam, whether online or face-to-face. It's also applicable. Yes. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. I strongly believe you will be able to follow what I've actually illustrated, and I strongly believe it will help you. Remember, practice makes perfect, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.